STDs are among the most common communicable diseases. Government is urging sexually active people to protect their loved ones by using condoms. People with infections may not present symptoms and might infect partners unknowingly. To discuss this further, we're joined by sexual and reproductive health specialist Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng. A very good morning to you, Doctor. Tell us what the focus should be today and going forward in order to protect everyone.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I think what's really important is to talk about sexual health, sexuality, sexual rights, and sexual pleasure within a human rights perspective, because that way we are able to discuss the state obligations and the responsibilities that public health professionals have, towards citizens. But what I really like to do as we start off this conversation is just read for you the WHO's definition of sexual health, which says it's a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It's not merely absence of disease. And I think this is very important because we need to approach sexual health discussions, including those around STIs and infections and condom use, in a positive manner, in a respectful approach to both sexual rights and sexual relationships, as well as assisting people have the possibility of pleasurable experiences while having safer sexual experiences.
I should imagine dealing with this when there's such a big stigma attached to it is problematic. How do you shift that?
Absolutely, and the stigma thrives from a lack of education and information, which is why I really believe that a sustained public health information, should be something that South Africa considers going back to. Definitely there's a growing consensus, and this is part of international human rights, that sexual health cannot be achieved without maintaining and protecting respect and the protection of certain human rights. So right to information is very important, rights to privacy, rights to equality and non-discrimination. And it's very important to realize that even when we are talking about sexual and reproductive health rights, we are talking about fundamental human rights. So the policies, the services, the type of healthcare professionals available to give quality services are all important in the realization of sexual health.
And probably people don't realize how easy it is, and sometimes it just boils down to wearing a condom, right?
It does, and the discussion around use of condom has to be within the context of consent, because we need to also, in the way that we speak about sex and sexual abuse, for example, leads and fuels the stigma and the victim shaming and blaming, which is why even in language, I want us to go back to a point where when we talk about people having sex, by definition, inherently embedded in that definition should be a consensual experience. If it's not consensual, it's no longer sex. And so condom use is part of that negotiation of sex. It's part of that discussion about consent, because we know condom use perhaps may be discussed as well on who's going to wear the condom, who's going to get that condom. Is it being bought or is it being sought from a public space? Do we have a lubricant that's appropriate for this type of condom? And what are other fertility needs and other safer sex tools needs that are required that goes just beyond talking about wearing a condom?